time now for the Great British Debate, and I'm asking, is Sir Keir Starmer helping or hindering peace? Earlier today, he called on the Russian president to come to the negotiating table to agree to a ceasefire in the war in Ukraine. But is he really helping by doing this? Really? Seriously? Does he have any power? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is Sir Keir Starmer helping or hindering peace? Well, joining me now, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also co-founder of Novara Media, Aaron Bastani. Look, I was talking to you, Aaron, earlier, and I was saying that basically he is dismantling NATO with his coalition of the willing. And this is what Vladimir Putin wanted all along. So inadvertently, Keir Starmer is dismantling the very thing that Vladimir Putin is afraid of.
Well, they'll still talk about NATO, but what they mean, of course, is Europe plus Canada. And everybody knows that NATO is fundamentally the United States, bottom lining it in terms of personnel, in terms of know-how, equipment, etc., resources. So you're right on that one. And in terms of the role Keir Starmer's playing, is he a variable? Let's be honest. There are two variables in this situation. One is in Washington, one is in Moscow. Then you can say to some extent, of course, the Ukrainians have a role to play as well. But the Europeans are onlookers. And I think if you're Poland, if you're Lithuania, you're, I think, justifiably worried about what happens next. And of course, people like Macron, Starmer have to make noises to reassure them. But fundamentally, the Europeans can't do much here. And I'll finish with this. You still have Keir Starmer saying that NATO peacekeepers can go into Ukraine, British, French personnel. That has been overtly described by Russian diplomats, politicians as an army of occupation. It is absolutely not going to fly if you want any kind of peace treaty. And the fact that Starmer is still saying this reveals one of two things. Either he knows he's talking rubbish and it's purely just to make himself look puffed up, or he's completely delusional about the situation, and I don't know which one is worse.
Yes, that's a good summary. Lizzie Cundy, where do you stand with this?
Well, when I saw Keir Starmer, he's acting like he's cock of the north, doesn't he? And I'm afraid tomorrow will be a feather duster. Do you really think Putin's going to be sitting there watching him speak? He might as well speak to a bollard. Putin's not scared. He's not listening. Telling him to come to the table, he has to come to the table. I think it's just going to get Putin's back up. I mean, he's got no leadership skills. He can't even stop a dinghy at the minute. I mean, seriously, Nana, do you think Putin's going to be really shaking in his boots with Keir Starmer, what he just said? And they're all strap lines. What does he mean? There's no detail, as per usual. Well, and he's just trying to get headlines to try and be this great statesman and forget about all the domestic problems at home.
Well, it's very much, he said, yes, but, no more of that. The last time I heard that was Vicky Pollard. Yes, but no, but yes, but no. I mean, he has this ability to come out with things that will end up being comedic. Yeah. And yes, but he should have looked at that and recognised that that was a strapline from a comedy show. Just like when he kept going on about he's the son of a toolmaker. And if you sort of work it further up in your brain, you realise what that makes him. So I'm sorry, but I want to see peace in Ukraine, but I'm struggling to see how this is an aggravatory factor towards Vladimir Putin. And also a good thing for Vladimir Putin, because that is the deconstruction of NATO.
Him repeatedly saying that Brits might be going to Ukraine is absolutely not helping. It's absolutely hindering any kind of peace settlement. That's, I think, beyond any shadow of a doubt. You said, is Putin scared of Keir Starmer? Russia has 5,000 nuclear intercontinental ballistic missiles. 5,000, OK? He's not scared of a guy that sounds like he needs a Vicks vapor rub, you know, to go to sleep at night. So this is a really serious point. And then I'll finish with this. I think that he's given up. I think he's given up on the domestic political agenda he had because things are going so badly. And we've seen this before, of course. Many prime ministers do it. He's now going to become a foreign policy prime minister. He's decided.
But you're on the left. I was expecting you to defend him, so I'm going to have to try. Look, seriously. But he would say that what he is doing, he's brought all these 25 countries together. Yeah. They are now talking, and before they weren't. He's brought in New Zealand and people who were not part of the initial sort of NATO arrangement. So in his mind, he's thinking that he's creating a strengthened alliance. But I'm wondering, are they going to have to subscribe to Article 5? Because that means an attack on one is an attack on all. Because if they don't, then Putin, with his 5,000 ballistic missiles, could cherry-pick each one of these countries. Are we going to come back in defence of each other? Because that's what Putin is afraid of, NATO.
Exactly, scared of NATO. But the thing is, this wouldn't have happened unless Trump had said what he said. Trump's scared, you know, the Europeans to actually, think, actually, we've got to do something. So we have to thank Trump for that. But, he's talking about boots on the ground. Our army is at 72,000, couldn't even fill Wembley Stadium. And 10,000 of those can't work. They're out of work. They're either sick, lame or lazy. That's the truth of it. So, seriously, Putin must be sitting there laughing.
Who is he kidding? I'm just looking at that thinking most young people wouldn't really want to go into conflict. We don't have a decent enough army or the equipment or the person power. I see I've gone woke. I'm not using the word manpower.
Full Trudeau.
Even though that is from mankind, as in, the human race, rather than male and female. But we don't have what it takes, and even we know it. So it's laughable, isn't it?
So you were saying you want to make the argument against what we broadly agree on in regards to Ukraine. What I would say is, in Keir Starmer's defence, Europe has to bottom line Europe's defence.
Yeah.
Europe has to bottom line Europe's security. And that is clearly part of what this conversation is. That's a separate conversation to should British and French service personnel go into the Ukraine, potentially die on the river Dnipro, thousands of miles from home, for what? We've seen this picture before. Yeah. We deployed people willy-nilly to Afghanistan more than 20 years ago. We were told it was going to be, low effort, sorted by Christmas. And what do we know? Over the next 20 years, 454 people came back to this country in coffins with a Union flag over them. So shouldn't be taken lightly, this idea of just deploying service personnel. It's a huge, huge risk. However easy people think it's going to be, things go wrong.
But I think we've got to look at him as a leader when he's not doing anything in his own country. Boats are coming thick and fast, smashing the gangs. What's happened to that? As I said, he couldn't smash the ice off his old fish pond. He really is disastrous, and he has got no leadership qualities, and I just think the whole world is actually thinking, you know what, you can't even do it in your own country. He's embarrassing.
For you, maybe, but to be fair, I have heard lots of people saying, Sir Keir Starmer, he's looking like a leader on the world stage. When I spoke to Philip Ingram there, he was suggesting that Keir Starmer is doing the right thing. Posturing is the only thing you can do right now because there's nothing that we physically can do, really. But we have supplied Ukraine with arms, but just enough for them to keep the fighting, but not enough to actually win.
Yeah.
So we have been complicit in this continuation of the war, but not complicit in it actually a proper resolution, I think.
Yeah.
I personally believe that. Although, in Keir Starmer's defence, that starts with Boris Johnson. It starts with the previous government, and obviously Labour have only been in for 1 year. But you're absolutely right. Basically, we've given a lifeline to Ukraine to fight on just enough that they can lose several 100,000 people.
Yeah.
About 500,000 people have died both sides, probably minimum.
Yeah.
And there's no agenda and there's no plan or strategy as to how you actually win the thing. And Trump's coming for criticism, but at least there's the semblance of a peace negotiation going on now.
And I think it's very clear to know that the Europeans have given Russia so much money for their gas and oil and less to fight the Ukraine war.
All right, well, listen, what do you think? gbnews.com/your say. You're with me. I'm Nana Acquia. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel.